Okay, so let's get into this. We all love a story about an epic journey, right? But imagine crossing, I don't know, all of Central Asia, the Himalayas, on foot. Not for war, not for trade, but because your library books at home were incomplete.
It sounds almost absurd, but that's exactly what we're talking about.
Today, we are opening a literal time capsule from the 5th century left by a Chinese Buddhist monk named Faxian.
Right, Faxian. He was born around 337 CE, and this journey he undertook was just extraordinary. 15 years overland, from 399 to 414.
15 years!
And you're right, the motivation wasn't what you typically think. It wasn't about spreading the faith. It was intensely academic.
So it's basically bureaucratic emergency disguised as a grand adventure.
Exactly. He was genuinely distressed that back in China, the Vinaya, which is the complete monastic disciplinary code, the rule book for monks,
Okay.
it was missing huge chunks. He believed the Chinese Saga, the community, couldn't function properly without the real, authentic text.
So his mission was purely textual. Go get the books.
Go get the books from the source, the Middle Kingdom, or Madhya De, as it was known.
And yet in doing that, his travel journal, the Foguo Ji, became this document of just unparalleled importance.
It really did.
And for our deep dive today, we're focusing on one critical part of that journey.
Yeah.
His passage through ancient Gandhāra.
Which is modern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan. And this is really where we get that aha moment.
Why there specifically?
Because Gandhara wasn't just some remote kingdom, it was this vibrant cosmopolitan nexus. You have to think of it as a blend of Hellenistic art, Persian administration, and incredibly deep Indian Buddhist scholarship. It was a total fusion.
And Faxian gets there at the perfect time.
The absolute perfect time. He arrives at the height of its power.
And this snapshot is so valuable because it comes with an expiry date, doesn't it?
No.
We're seeing this complex living world just moments before it basically vanishes.
That's the tragic irony. It's like the last clear photograph taken before the house burns down. Just a few decades after Faxian leaves, the Alchon Huns invade, and the entire region is devastated. Later pilgrims, like the famous Xuanzang in the 7th century, they describe ruins.
Where Faxian saw life.
Exactly. He saw flourishing cities, dense networks of monasteries. We're using his eyes to see a world that was, about to be wiped off the map.
So we're going to unpack how this landscape was, as one source put it, engineered to teach the Dharma. From massive monuments all the way down to some ingenious social practices.
Let's start with the hard part then, just getting there.
The trek into the region.
The entry was brutal. After surviving the Pamir Mountains, and he talks about these dizzying paths and awful conditions, he lands in these high-altitude zones called Dharma.
He even mentions crossing a chain bridge over the Indus. I mean, that detail alone tells you how remote and dangerous this was.
It really does. But what's telling is his note that even there in the mountains, the law of Buddha is very flourishing.
Right, so it wasn't just an urban thing.
Not at all. It shows the culture was deeply embedded. Even far from the main cities, you had established monastic complexes, the sagaramas that were part of the local life, and crucially, the trade networks.
But the real shock for him came when he descended into the Swat River Valley, right? Ancient Suvastu, which he called Uddiyana.
Yeah, this is where he seems just completely astonished. He claims that in Uddiyana, there were altogether 1,400 sagaramas.
1,400. Now, that number has to be an exaggeration.
Oh, almost certainly. It's hyperbolic. But let's think about what that exaggeration tells us.
It tells you he was just floored.
Yeah.
He must have seen so many monasteries in this incredibly fertile valley that the only way to describe it to people back home was to use a number that sounded impossibly large.
It paints a picture of a spiritual metropolis, really, nestled in the mountains. And it was supported by agriculture and trade. But the monasteries themselves, they were more than just residences for monks.
This is where we get to the theater of merit-making.
Yes. This is where doctrine stops being text and becomes actual geography. The land itself tells the story.
And how does that work?
The whole region was anchored by what are called Jataka sites. These are places where the Buddha, in his previous lives, performed some incredible act of compassion.
So the stories were literally rooted in the landscape.
Precisely. And Faxian details the most famous one. The place where the Buddha, in a past life, offered his own body to a starving tigress and her cubs.
The ultimate act of self-sacrifice. And archaeologists have actually linked this story to the Shingarter Stupa.
They have. So you have this physical monument marking a doctrinal ideal. But the ritual there was about more than just personal devotion.
It was also a performance of power.
Absolutely. Faxian sees kings, ministers, common people, all coming from surrounding countries to make lavish offerings, burning lamps, scattering flowers, and never ceasing, he says.
So it's a huge ongoing festival.
A pan-regional festival. And think about the political angle. By hosting this major site, the local rulers of Uddiyana are demonstrating immense religious merit.
Which strengthens their legitimacy.
It reinforces their political legitimacy and their prestige. The landscape, the doctrine, the politics, it's all woven together in this continuous grand performance.
Okay, so from this mountain kingdom, we move down into the urban core of Gandhāra, to Purushapura.
Modern Peshawar. And this is where the scale just explodes.
We're talking about the legacy of the Kushan Empire here.
And specifically, Faxian's description of the Great Stupa of Kanishka. It's our only real eyewitness account of it at its full glory. He said it was over 40 chains high.
40 chains. So for us, a chain was an ancient Chinese unit, roughly 10 feet.
Right.
So we're talking about a structure that's around 120 meters tall.
Yeah.
You have to picture a 40-story skyscraper, but built in the early centuries CE. It's just astonishing.
It would have dominated the skyline for days as you approached the city, and he says it was adorned with all manner of precious substances. It was a statement piece.
And again, that last snapshot idea is so important here. This thing was built centuries before Faxian, but when he saw it, it was still perfectly maintained, fully operational.
The living heart of a capital city. He even mentions the spire of the stupa that glitters with a dazzling golden light. That was probably a multi-tiered gilded wooden structure on top.
But the monumentality wasn't just about size, was it? It was also a treasury.
A massive treasury. The city housed the Buddha's actual skull bone in a separate jeweled casket. There was even a special government official assigned to guard it.
And that's the key to what we could call the relic economy, isn't it? These weren't just bones, they were assets.
The ultimate non-depreciating asset.
Housing a major relic like that guarantees constant pilgrim traffic, donations. It directly funds the city and its monasteries.
And it creates wealth, it sustains art, it subsidizes scholarship. Relics powered the whole system.
Which brings us, I think, to the most fascinating part of his entire account. The Gomati Vihara.
Yes. This is where we see the system in action on a daily basis.
So where was this place?
Faxian says it's south of Purushapura. Most scholars think it's in the Shabaz Garhi region. And its location was strategically brilliant.
How so?
It was right on the main trade routes near the entrance to the Khyber Pass. Anyone traveling between Central Asia and India basically had to pass this site.
So it's prime real estate.
Absolutely. And the name itself is interesting, Gomati. It was named after Gautami, the Buddha's foster mother.
What does that suggest?
It could suggest a history of strong female patronage, or maybe even direct support for the order of Buddhist nuns, the Bingsalka.
But its main claim to fame, its main draw, was the relic it held.
The Buddha's alms bowl. The patra. And Faxian is so precise. He says it's made of stone, of a violet color, housed in this beautiful, ornate shrine.
So you have the skull bone, this major bodily relic in the capital, and here, on the trade route, you have the alms bowl, a relic of sustenance, of humility.
A very different kind of relic with a very different kind of ritual attached to it.
This is where his daily observation becomes so illuminating. What did he see every single day with this bowl?
He lays out this very choreographed daily sequence. At dawn, the monks place the bowl on a pedestal, they make offerings, and they fill it with food that's been donated by the lay community.
Okay, simple enough.
Then, at the midday meal, the bowl is brought to all the assembled monks. And this is where Faxian records the miracle.
The miracle.
The food from that one single bowl was always enough for every single monk. Didn't matter how many were there. But the ritual doesn't stop there.
And I have a feeling the next part is the really important part, institutionally speaking.
I think you're right. After all the monks had eaten their fill, the remaining food, these sacred leftovers, was then shared with the lay people, the donors. And they would take it home as a pledge of blessing, a physical token of their good deed.
So let's step back from the miracle part, the faith component. How does this ritual function as an institution? This seems like pure genius.
It's an incredibly sophisticated performance with a crucial practical purpose. First, on an internal level, it dramatizes the ideal of the saga.
A single harmonious body.
Exactly. Sustained by the Buddha's grace. It builds internal cohesion. But more importantly, for the outside world, it reinforces the bond between the monastery and its patrons.
The people who donate the food in the first place.
Right. When they received the blessed leftovers, it's tangible proof that their donation wasn't wasted, that it was managed properly by a blessed institution, and that they, the donors, get a share of that merit back.
It's like a daily report on their spiritual investment, and the return is excellent.
It is an excellent return on investment. It's a public demonstration of prudent and equitable management. The monastery is effectively saying, look, we manage scarcity so well that the Buddha blesses our efforts. Your resources are safe and powerful with us.
That's the economy of merit, right there in action.
It is.
And by proving you can make a small amount of food feed many, you attract even more donations of food, money, materials.
It creates this powerful, virtuous cycle. The sacred object, the patra, generates pilgrimage, which generates wealth. That wealth funds the monastery, the art, the scholarship, all secured by a daily performance. It shows a system powered by faith, yes, but also by highly refined, sustainable economic models.
Amazing. So after witnessing this, Faxian continues moving east, and he makes one last really important stop in the region.
Yes, he travels on and he visits a stone inscription of the Law of Piety. And scholars are quite certain this is the bilingual rock edicts of the Emperor Ashoka at Shabazgarhi.
Ashoka, who ruled in the 3rd century BCE. That's 700 years before Faxian was there.
Right.
So why does it matter that he recognized this ancient inscription?
It tells us that the monastic education in Gandhara had this deep, active slice of history. He wasn't just some tourist. He was consciously connecting the living Buddhist world he was seeing to the imperial past of Ashoka.
The great ideal Buddhist king.
The paradigmatic Buddhist king. It's like finding an intellectual anchor from the distant past, proving the lineage and legitimacy of everything he's witnessing.
And from there, he moves on.
From there, he proceeds southeast to Taxila, which marks his exit from the Gandhāran sphere and his entry into the rest of India to continue his search.
So his whole path through Gandhāra, from the mountains, through Peshawar to Gomati, it really was a journey through a civilization at its absolute peak.
A complete, structured tour of a culture that was firing on all cylinders.
So what's the final takeaway from this time capsule he left us?
I mean, the Foguo Ji just freezes this perfect moment in time. A thriving material culture, dense monastic networks, busy pilgrimage routes. He saw a civilization flourishing where just a generation or two later, there would be, well, mostly ruins.
His testimony is priceless because it captures the daily institutional reality of that world right before it was extinguished.
And it reveals a world that wasn't just based on ideals, it was strategically self-sustaining. It was clever.
It was incredibly pragmatic.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Faxian's mission, as we said, was purely pragmatic. He just wanted to get complete copies of his religious rulebook.
A librarian on the world's most dangerous book run.
Exactly. And yet, by just taking notes on what he saw, he accidentally became the last great chronicler of an entire world.
And you have to consider the fragility of that history. The power and wealth of a place like the Gomati Vihara depends entirely on their ability to perform a daily ritual, the multiplying food, that convinced the public they were wise and worthy stewards of vast resources.
It's this incredible blend of deep faith and high institutional pragmatism.
Right, so think about that. How often does a miracle also function as, in effect, a brilliant annual report, one that ensures economic and spiritual security for centuries? That's the quiet genius that Faxian, almost by accident, documented for us.